Hello, and welcome to this webinar, Go Digital, How to Streamline Your Quality and ERP Processes, brought to you by HighQA and ProShop ERP. I am Lisa Sterling, your host and moderator for today's session. In this session, you will learn why going digital for your ERP and quality processes can dramatically improve efficiencies for your shop. You will see digital routings and job travelers, digital inspection plans, digital inspection data entry, and more. But before we get started, I would like to mention a couple of housekeeping items. We invite you to ask questions throughout the presentation by typing in your Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen, as your phone is muted during the session. We will address the questions received at the end of the presentation. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be available in a few days. I would now like to introduce you to our presenters. First, we will have Brian Anderson, Account Executive at ProShop ERP, followed by Chris Mendocino, Vice President of Product for HighQA. And with that, I will turn the floor over to Brian.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. All right, let's dive in. Thanks everyone for joining this morning and spending your time with us. We really do appreciate it. Let's get started and talk a little bit about ProShop. ProShop is a digital manufacturing ecosystem. We built ProShop in a manufacturing and a machining environment. So let me get my slides working here. There we go. So ProShop was originally founded in 2000, but before that, the founders had started a machine company. You can see them. They came from fairly humble beginnings, a fairly small space back in 1997. They were using Excel to manage the business until about 2000, when we really outgrew what Excel was able to do for us. I'm sure many of you have probably been in a similar situation and have had some challenges making something work for you that doesn't work. So we started looking around for other solutions and really didn't find one that suited everything that we needed. So we started developing ProShop in 2000. Now, ProShop is a web-based system. What that means is that everyone interfaces it through a standard web browser, which, as we all know, going through to today is still going nice and strong and very, very relevant. We continued our machining company in the early 2000s and saw some very strong growth. We continued to adapt the software to meet all of our needs, all of our customers' needs, including being able to get full QMS, first ISO, and then AS certified. We're in the Pacific Northwest, so we had a large segment of aerospace. So we spent a lot of time working on making sure that all the traceability and everything that we needed for aerospace was built in. In 2008, we had our largest machine customer come to us and ask us to install ProShop for them in their company. They had an employee that moonlighted with us on the weekend, and he went back and said, well, you guys really have to check out the software. It's amazing. And of course, originally the founders are like, well, what do we know about software? We're a machine shop. But they were fairly insistent. And so we did. We helped them implement ProShop. And in the first year, they saw such dramatic improvements, on-time delivery, throughput, overhead reductions, that the founders stepped back and took a look at what was going on and said, we may have really kind of figured out some magic here and some key fundamentals on making this work. So they continued to grow the software and grow the company and sold the manufacturing company in 2014 and founded ProShop ERP. ProShop originally began selling in 2016, and we've seen some pretty significant growth over time. So how can ProShop help you? Well, we have a full manufacturing ecosystem, which means that we're going to help you cover everything from the front door to the back door. That's going to be estimating and quoting, project management, doing all of your purchasing, supply chain, understanding your schedules, having all of your work instruction for the shop floor. This is going to be an interactive system for all employees, regardless of where they are. Equipment tracking and a fully integrated QMS, inspection and QC in the system, and everything is going to be done in a digital environment. So no more paper to get to trace around and chase around the shop. Everything is going to be right available on the computer, and it's always going to be live and current. We'll start by taking a quick look at estimating. So the way that we have estimating and quoting structured in ProShop, you'll simply define what your real processes are. Most of those processes can actually be created in a template and brought forward so you can quickly develop a quote for your customer without having to do a lot of work. You don't have to start from scratch every single time. So if you do 5-axis machining, or you do turning, or you do complex assemblies, all of that can be brought in very quickly, and then prices can be structured within that environment. And the costing structure can be flexible. So every single estimate you do has the ability to change and tweak your costing structure. If you charge $150 an hour for just a straight shop rate for 5-axis machining, no problem. If you charge very complex direct overhead labor to specific machines and resources, and you have different labor rates for production running versus setup versus programming, all of those things can be handled and taken into account, and lots of options in between. And like I said, every single estimate you do can be customized based off of the project that you're looking at, the industry you're quoting for, or even the individual customer that you're working with. We want to also track everything that we're doing. So part of tracking what we're doing in the project management sense is having systems in place to really understand the projects. We call that contract review in our system. So we have a series of tools. We're looking at one here called what we call the pre-processing checklist, but a series of tools that make it quick and easy to identify what all the requirements are and start laying out the plan. By the way, that plan actually is initiated from the estimate originally, because you're specifying what is your manufacturing plan and estimating. So all of that rolls right over into project management. So a big part of what we want to do is make sure that at the very beginning, we're really understanding what that plan is, and we're putting everything in place for that. We need to understand our supply chain. When is material going to be here? How do I know when do I want it? So this is part of the conversation when we want to talk about scheduling. New work is automatically scheduled, and we'll see that a little bit later. But know when you need materials, know when you need cutting tools, any inventoried items. What does your outside processing look like? If you have to send something out for anodizing, you really need to know what all of those timelines are. And again, ProShop has a lot of built-in tools to establish those timelines, clearly see them on schedules, and notify everyone with simple color codes and simple icons, so you can tell at a glance what your status is on anything that you need for your projects. We're going to have visibility of targeted cost and time. What that means is that you need to know, and this is usually based off an estimate, or if it's a repeat job, it could be based off of history. How long does something take you to run? How much time is allocated on the schedule for setting up a job or inspecting a job or even just running the production? You really need to know that. So we're going to be looking at that, and we're going to be feeding that information not just to the schedules and the project managers, but also straight to the shop floor. So every employee will know what's expected of them and be able to log accordingly. We want to be thinking about what's happening on the shop floor as well. So we actually did a webinar on this. We call this setup reduction and best practices for this. So if anyone's interested in this webinar, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to share it. But the key points there are that you want to make sure that as you're prepping from a project management perspective, as you're prepping the project to get out to any of the manufacturing staff, that everyone knows exactly what to do. The setup time is often the killer in the shop. It's not usually production. It's usually just the excessive amount of time that we spend in setup. So if we can take that away and organize that before we get to a machine, then everyone is going to know exactly what it is they need to do without having to guess, without having to walk into the programming office and find out. It's all going to be there, be documented, and easy to see. We'll have the ability to monitor jobs in real time. So are we on track? We've already established what we know what our target is, again, based off of what we've estimated and how we've costed the job. But we need to track that in real time. We need to know at the moment if somebody has been spending too much time on a setup or spending too much time running production. And because that's the point you can do something about it. If you don't find out until after you've shipped the job, then you can't really affect that until the next time you run it. Or worse, if you never know, then you're never going to know whether or not that you should take that job again, or if you should rebid it. So we have some tools in place to really be able to see, Are we where we want to be in this sense? Live scheduling. So I kind of alluded to this a little bit before. So on the scheduling topic, scheduling is a notoriously difficult thing to do. I did scheduling for our company for about 10 years or so. We started, before we had scheduling modules in ProShop, we started with some of the typical tools that you'd see: Excel, Post-it notes, Whiteboard, Microsoft Project, all sorts of various things to try to get it in. And what we found was it was a very involved, very long, time-consuming process, pretty much a full-time job. And this is at the point where we're talking a shop of about 20, 25 people. So not all that big of a company, and it still was a full-time job to do scheduling. So when we built the ProShop schedule, we decided we really wanted to try to trim that down and automate as much as possible. So when new jobs are created, either from estimates or from repeat jobs, they're automatically calculated to go on their scheduled resources on the Gantt charts. Moving things around on Gantt charts is as simple as dragging and dropping. There's obviously all sorts of color codes to be able to see what's the status of a job. Is it on time? Answer these questions that we have, that everybody hears in the shop. Is it on time? What's my bottleneck? What's the pacing item? Or even from the shop floor, what do I work on? So all of our schedules are going to be able to be quickly readable, and you'll know the answers to these and many other questions. As we move through and we actually think about this from a shop floor perspective, the other side of this is that we want people to track their progress. So we'll take their daily progress numbers, we call it time tracking, and we'll take that information and update the schedules automatically. So now again, back to the idea that scheduling shouldn't be a full-time job. We want those entries from our shop floor employees to automatically update what we're doing here. We'll see visual work instruction. So back on the shop floor, how do I know how to set up the job or how to run the job? So ProShop can incorporate fully visual work instructions. All the details are going to be laid out. You don't have what's often referred to as tribal knowledge or institutional knowledge. It's all going to be here in the system. And updating this on the fly is very, very easy. With a few clicks, you can add pictures. So you can use a tablet because, again, ProShop being based in a browser, you can simply take a picture from your tablet or your phone up and again, with the click of a button, it'll upload it, and ProShop will automatically manage that picture and manage whatever files you want to attach and paste them on this page for everyone that's looking at the job and every job after that. This information is automatically generated, so you no longer have that stuck information in somebody's head. So when they go on vacation, you're not sure how to run that job. It's all here. We have a digital tool library. So everything that you need to track for your cutting tools will all be built into ProShop. Identify exactly which tool to use and how it's set up. What tool holder do you put it in? What is my out of holder length? Any of those types of things. On the right, we even have information there for purchasing status. So again, color coded. We'll know what do we have in stock versus what's on order. If we want to see the details of the tool, we simply click the tool number, and that pulls up the actual tool page where we'll see all the specifications for the tool. We can have links into the manufacturer's websites for speed and feed information. Again, all that's going to be built into the ProShop tool library. We'll have equipment and Workcell modules. So in addition to all the scheduling side of things, you want to be able to track your maintenance and schedule your maintenance and track it, of course, especially if you have a QMS. This is actually something that's required in most QMSs, is that you have some system of doing preventative maintenance for your equipment. So you can track that, you can log it, and ProShop will even notify the users, the person that's responsible to do the job, that when something is due. So all of that, again, is going to be maintained within our equipment modules. We'll use this module to also track calibration for inspection equipment. Same sort of a thing. Calibration works in a very similar fashion to maintenance. So when something is due for calibration and needs to be updated, we will simply notify the person that's responsible for that, and they can proceed with doing calibration. Or if it's an external, you send it out to a calibration house, they can start processing that from a purchasing perspective. all the quality manuals and procedures are built into the system. So what that means is that most companies in most environments, if they have a QMS, things are either on paper or they have a third-party software that manages that for them. And that's fine, but it's also not very efficient. So our QMS is built in and it has everything that you need. It has all rev control. You'll be able to see everything from the top level quality manual through the procedures and the flow charts and the individual tasks. The training is integrated and fully related to every employee, all the company positions they fill. You can even use this to dictate what kind of access people have. If they're not trained on something, you can literally prevent them from filling in fields because they're not trained on that. Doing audits in ProShop is very fast. In fact, it's not uncommon for our customers to find that an auditor will book 3 days and they'll take 2 because everything is linked. It's all digital, it's all right there. They don't have to move from different systems. They don't have to chase people around the company. Everything is going to be available. There's also features that are going to be related to ITAR and CMMC compliance. So if you're interested in that, I'll have a little bit more to say about that in a little bit, but those features are integrated as well. Digital quality control. So again, we'll handle QC in the system. Your part check info can actually be brought in, and Chris will talk about this in a few minutes, but this can actually be brought in directly from HighQA to build your inspection plans in ProShop and record first article or in-process inspections right in the system, which then ProShop can later collate into what we call a digital document package with all your certifications, COCs, and all that stuff, again, right in the ProShop environment. Tracking nonconformances. This is something that's often overlooked. So because we can do quality in the system, we'll be able to generate nonconformances. It'll automatically calculate if something is out of tolerance. You'll generate a nonconformance and be able to track that, whether we're talking about improvement suggestions like I have circled here, or you can even track cost. But the big thing that people miss about nonconformance is that you absolutely need to track that so you can prove this is what happened to this item and we've scrapped it or we've reworked it or whatever. But the other side of the coin here is to be able to find the trends, because you can use this information to improve. And within the ProShop environment, every time you create a nonconformance, you can collate these reports to find out in a certain time period, a certain quarter or a certain month, what was my major issue? I had a cutting tool failure, or maybe I had a setup error, and I can recognize which operators had the most setup error and then go and do some more training with them. So we have a real opportunity here to take the information that you need to log anyway, because your quality system requires that you create nonconformances, and you can actually use that to improve, do better training, buy different equipment, buy different cutting tools. All you have to do is review that data that ProShop is collating in the background anyway. So finally, we're going to talk a little bit about CMMC. So if you know what CMMC is, you probably already know that it's coming and that it's going to affect you. But essentially, if you're going to work on defense or government related projects, you're going to need to get CMMC certified. It won't be optional. So at ProShop, we have a suite of tools and features built in that can help you meet those requirements. Of course, this is an evolving field. So at the moment, we have everything that you'll need for level 1. We have most everything for level 2 and most everything for level 3. Of course, this is an evolving field. So those features continue to evolve with the requirements as those are being more and more established. But everything that you're going to need to get to a level 3 will be available in ProShop. And if you'd like to learn more about that, please reach out to us. This seems to be a very, very hot topic these days and something that everyone seems to be asking about. So thank you very much. I appreciate all your time. As you can see here, if you want to reach out to us, there's a little bit of contact information. We will follow up as well with some links to get in touch with us if you want to learn more. We have another website, loveyourerp.com. That's kind of a fun site that just talks about people actually using the system and what it means to them, etc. But for now, I'll go ahead and turn this back over to Chris and let you take it from here.
Great, thank you, Brian. All right. If I can get a quick confirmation that you got my screen up now, we should be
Yes,
good.
looks good.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, so thank you, Brian, for that overview of ProShop. Um, I mean, as speaking on HighQA's behalf, we really enjoy partnering with ProShop as a company. They're a great team of people over there. So want to switch gears a little bit. We'll get into the HighQA side of things so you guys can understand a little bit about us as a company if you haven't heard of us before. And then I'm going to switch into a demo to kind of walk through some of the key highlights of major values that we offer that can supplement the ProShop system. Okay, so HighQA, we've been around for a few years now. So if we jump in here, founded in 2006, we're headquartered out of New Jersey, although we have a predominantly work from home model. So a lot of us are remote, spread out all over the country, and we have partners all over the world. I believe we have somewhere around 10 or 11 partners right now. And our flagship product is called Inspection Manager. And you can see from the image over here in the side, we started out as a ballooning technology software. And so we auto balloon 2D prints, 3D models, and build inspection plans from there, right? And so over the years, the system has grown into a extremely comprehensive quality management tool with new features that have been coming out, like 3D MBD, support for bringing in 3D models directly, what we call PQP, so production quality planning. I'll touch on that a little bit towards the end. And even supply chain management, in-depth supply chain management, and being able to manage, collect submission requirements from suppliers, or if you are a supplier, passing it up to your customers, and so on. So some of the key industries we get into are any of the highly regulated industries, and that's where our product adds value, because meeting those regulations can require an immense amount of overhead and cost. So aerospace, automotive, defense, oil and gas, and so on. We have an extremely professional services team, where we get into we don't just provide you software. We're providing consultation services, because our team that we've assembled here, myself included, everyone from the top down, our CTO and I, who drives a lot of the product development and direction of the company from a product perspective, and also the support team. Most of us come from some sort of heavy manufacturing background, just like the ProShop team does. The ProShop team came from a manufacturing company with a lot of experience there, and most of us in the HighQA side have worked for a number of different manufacturing technology companies, everything from PLM, ERP to digital IoT systems and things of that nature, as well as CAD/CAM. All right, some of our customers, just a quick list of some of the companies that we work with around the world. Everything from small shops up to large enterprise shops. The solutions that we offer are extremely versatile in that nature. So a couple of big ideas I wanted to hit on for today. Big idea number one, going digital. To us, when we say going digital, it's more than just no paper, right? We also mean no more Word and Excel. All right, so we're taking it one step beyond even, because saying no paper, that's fine to have no physical paper, but it would be nice to get outside of Word and Excel, where you're just managing share folders and data throughout a file share network. HighQA and ProShop offer comprehensive tools to actually digitize your content at a database level. And that's an extreme amount of power and flexibility that you have over your manufacturing process. So big idea number two, you can't go wrong with partnering with ProShop and HighQA together. Okay, so that's what we want to hit on today. Obviously, Brian was going through some of how you can manage the ERP and MES and even a lot of QMS side of things. And so we'll show how we end up augmenting that quality process. So with that, I'm going to pivot slightly here and we'll jump into a quick demo. So I'm going to pull up Inspection Manager here. So this is the primary Inspection Manager application. Okay, there's a few different sides to it. We've got, shop floor data collection apps and things of that nature. But we're just going to focus on the ballooning side for now, just to show you guys how that works, because seeing is believing, right? So we're going to start with 2D, and I'll show you an example of bringing in a 3D model. We'll touch on that just slightly. But if I'm starting with a 2D print, I've got a few panels here. So this panel over here, this is kind of my toolbar where I can shift into a few different tools that I have to manage the part record and the inspection requirements. My interactive drawing panel, so I can work visually with the drawing control pane here. And I can even work with multi-page drawings, so I would see kind of a grid of multiple sheets, although this one's just the one pager. Okay. And down here, once we do our auto ballooning, you'll see all of the characteristics populate down here in the table below. So that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to click on my auto ballooning. And like I said, we can balloon multiple pages or just the one. And we have some options to ignore certain types of dimensions if we don't want to balloon basics and reference and so on. So for now, what I'm going to do is just say OK to this. And I'm going to let this process with the default settings. So what HighQA does, or Inspection Manager does, is it takes a PDF drawing and it's scanning it as an image. Okay, so there's no like reading the file properties or anything like that. There's no like structured data here. It's purely just reading this as an image. This can work with TIFF and JPEG as well, in addition to PDFs. And it identifies all the dimensional requirements, adds balloons, and interprets them to build your table of inspection requirements down below. Okay, so you can see those two steps that just played out right here. Okay, so if we look at this, each one of these objects is now ballooned. Okay, so each one of the dimensions that it was able to find. Okay, and you can see all these three panels are linked. So if I click here on any dimension, it pulls that up in the DIM editor over here, so I can make adjustments if needed. And I've got the full table down below that's also in sync. So if I click on anything on the table, it pulls it up in the drawing area. So everything is extremely graphic and intuitive. And you'll see the depth of what's actually extracted in the table down here automatically. So if we look at this, like for each balloon number that we grab, we're actually describing the characteristic, or we've extracted an appropriate interpretation of the requirement here. So flatness, diameter, thread, true position, linear, surface profile, etc. The system understands all of the GD&T standards and symbology that are used on all of your prints. Anybody that's working in the manufacturing industry with prints like this. So this is coming from what we call OCR technology, optical character recognition. And it's something that we developed over a number of years before we even turned this into a product. We spent, I think it was somewhere around 5 or 6 years before this even became a product that we sold. We put that time into developing that OCR technology, and it is by far the most advanced on the market today. Okay, so the system that we've developed here, the reason we started at this point of just perfecting or building the most highly optimized auto ballooning system in the market, the reason we focused on that is because when it comes to quality and planning for manufacturing related quality, as far as how quality impacts manufacturing, it all originates from a drawing. Okay, so we've shown this system to other people who are familiar with other quote unquote QMS packages, and they've asked, well, yeah, but where's my part record, my job? And we say, this is the part record. It's your drawing. That's you do nothing manufacturing or quality related without referencing a drawing first. It all flows downstream from here. Okay, so we have a huge variety of tools to help you manage the ballooning process. So for example, I'm going to delete a feature here just to highlight a few things that we have. And so initially, auto ballooning, it's not perfect, right? It's not like, although it's one click, and with newer drawings that are that meet industry standards, it'll be highly accurate. But most of us work in some sort of job shop world where you're getting a huge variety of different types of prints with different resolution levels from your customers, right? And so we need some tools to be able to supplement when auto ballooning or the computer is not able to appropriately recognize all of the information, right? So I can just come up here and click whiteout balloons. So this tool is a great first step of, after I run my auto ballooning, I want to hide everything that it captured just to see what got missed. Okay, so when I white out the known information, I can really easily see this missing dimension right here. I can use my scissor tool. I can capture that feature. It'll bring that up in the DIM editor over here. And even if it didn't capture it correctly, I have all the tools necessary to define the requirements. I can add notes here. I can add the gauge category that should be used to inspect that feature. I can say if it's critical, major, minor. We have lots and lots of tools here to be able to fully define the inspection requirements on these prints. Okay, so I'll come out like this, and you'll see this here. So because I added that in after the auto ballooning, it's not in sequence with the rest of the balloon numbers on the print here. So we have like 8, 9, 10, 11. This would probably be 12. We would want it to be, then 13, 14, 15. Okay. And so what I can do, just to bring everything back into alignment, just come up here, click renumber. Now everything's back in alignment and very nicely organized. All right. So let's hit on this feature real quick, just so we understand the depth of what's going on here. And then we'll pivot over to the 2D side, or the 3D side. So this one here, one of the things that we do as a system by default, although you have some options here, is we recognize inspection requirements and group them by features. Okay, so this hole, there's 4 instances of this hole, but that whole thing is a feature, right? And so for that feature, we have 3 unique inspection requirements: a diameter, thread, true position. Okay, and then there's 4 of each of them. So really there's 12 requirements here that need to be inspected if you're doing the full inspection across all of them. And so you have full control to define all of this. And you'll see that we balloon it as 17, and then we have 17.1, 2, and 3 down here below. So diameter, thread, true position. Okay, and we understand the requirement that there's 4 instances of each one, and so on. All right, so we can even take this though, and we can click over here. We can say multiply that dimension if we wanted to. Okay. Oop. I'm going to turn on a default setting that I probably had off from a previous demo, just to show you something here. Okay. All right. So now we're going to click it, and you'll see what happens here. So what it did is it created the 12 unique line items. Now it kind of exploded the view out. So you don't need to do that from a database perspective. At the database level, it always knows that there's 12 requirements. So if you're using our apps or when you generate reports, it expands it out automatically. But if you want to see it visible in here, you can click that this button to expand it out. Now we have 12 requirements that can be independently managed. And we also have unique balloon numbers for them. So for those of you who need to actually identify or uniquely tag each individual instance of a multiplied feature on a print, now we can easily do that. And when you receive inspection results, either from manual inspections or from automated inspection equipment, you can know if there's a failure, you know exactly which instance of the feature failed, because it would be labeled as 17_3. Okay, so lots of great tools like that to quickly and easily balloon your prints and have that all linked to intelligent, organized data sets in a database. Okay, so there's lots more tools I can show you here, but really at the end of the day, there's a couple different approaches to working with ProShop if you've got both systems in place. Like I mentioned, if you have both systems, you can't really go wrong. It's just a matter of how you want to use them, depending on your needs. And so up here, we can say export. So once we've really refined this, we've got the balloon drawing and the requirements here, right? We can say export to ProShop, okay? And when we do that, that'll just export all of these requirements to a CSV file, okay? That we can then import to ProShop's part check info, as you had seen in Brian's slides earlier, okay? One thing I'll just mention real quick, since I kind of overlooked it briefly. Prior to sending this directly to ProShop, you may want to even break this up into the manufacturing operations that they are associated with. So that way it imports to ProShop and populates the part check info for each specific operation in the routing steps. Okay, so we can do that graphically here, or if you want to just export the raw list and break it up in ProShop, you could do that as well. Like I said, lots of flexible options. So I can just graphically grab a few different features like this, or I can be very specific and grab a number of features like so, and add the operations that I need here. And then you can name them, you can number them, so that they map appropriately to the ProShop system. Okay. If we click into this, you'll see that we have unique operations or unique ballooned drawings for each operation and a unique bill of characteristics for each operation that's automatically generated. Okay, so all of this is able to be very quickly built and shared with ProShop as needed to round out your quality planning processes. Okay. All these inspection plans at each operation level are completely and independently controlled. Okay, so we can double click any of these features here. We can edit any aspect of these requirements if we need to, because maybe at some in process stage, maybe there's maybe the feature is only roughed, so it hasn't been finished, gone through finished machining. It's only been roughed out, and so maybe there's excess material here. So when we inspect it, we want a slightly larger or smaller nominal, depending on if it's an ID or OD type feature, right? And so we can make all those adjustments at each operation stage without impacting the other operations. Okay, so there's unique and independent control at each step here. Okay. All right. So when it comes, like I said, when it comes to sharing this with ProShop, one click and you get your balloon PDF up here like so. All right, so I have my balloon PDF. This one I just created for that operation. Okay, you can also make it for specific operations if you'd like, or all of them together and share that whole multi-page PDF with ProShop. All right, so lots of flexibility, again, depending on what your requirements are, and then share the inspection requirements as well. All right, in a format that this is a custom format that we built that feeds the data directly to ProShop in a way that they're able to intelligently identify and map it. All right. So let's pivot over to the 3D side. I just want to show you an example of that real quickly. So when we say new here, we have new from drawing or new from CAD, right? So drawing is what we just did. We took a 2D drawing and brought it into the system. But now I'm going to say new from CAD. Okay. So if we do new from CAD, let me just go up here and I'm going to grab a part. So we can work with just about any native CAD model or CAD file. Okay, so right now I'm going to grab a Creo part model. All right, so this is what we call a 3D MBD, so a model-based definition, which has structured PMI data in it. Okay, so when we bring this in, you'll see this here, what we have. So now it brought us to our 3D tab, right? And so now I have full control over this model, right? I can pan it around, I can rotate it and so on. If you've got a space mouse, which I don't happen to have on my desk at the moment, you can have much more discrete control over this, right? And you'll notice that we just automatically balloon it. So we extract all that PMI data automatically and we balloon it like so. And you can see the list of all the characteristics down here below, okay? All the views that were built into the PMI data structure, right? So I can see all this information like so. Now, there's a few tools, and well, lots of tools that we have for really massaging this and prepping it for manufacturing, because that's really the key with a tool like what we've built here, is to be able to prep this and convert it to something that's useful for the manufacturing shop floor. So we have an automation tool up here where we can say auto PMI mapping, where instead of having all these dimensions at multiple different, or normal to multiple different planes, we can actually strip this down and break it out into multiple views, one view for each plane that I have dimensions normal to. Okay, so watch this here. So I'll say auto PMI mapping, and you'll see the views over here on the side. It's going to create some views for me automatically. All right, just like this. So it created a bottom view. So now I've got dimensions ballooned here, all the bottom facing dimensions, the front view, like so. All right, left view, and so on. All right, so now I can start working with this, and if there's some objects in here that I want to hide, right, I can actually hide some of the objects if I want to remove them and so on, or if you need them, you can keep them in the model. So just showing you some of the flexibility here when it comes to arranging all of this. Okay, and then the goal at the end of the day is to be able to extract these 3D views into the 2D area. So I'm just going to click to extract that to the 2D side, presuming I did all my prep work and now I'm done. And it brings us into this world. So you'll see it created a drawing sheet for each of those 3D CAD views with all of the ballooned features here very nicely. Okay. Now, just for the sake of time, I'm not going to get into this, but we do have a tool for combining drawing sheets. So you can actually build your own custom drawings from all this. So take the drawing sheets and just drag and drop them into groups together. And we even have the ability to define title block information at the top with your grid zones along the border of the print. And so you can build custom drawings with this utility as well. Okay. So lots of really great tools and flexibility here. No matter what your source is, whether it's a 2D drawing or a 3D model with PMI, you can bring that into Inspection Manager and you can build your inspection plans accordingly. Okay, and then share it with ProShop if you need to. Okay, great. So I want to pivot back to our slide deck real quick and step through a couple additional aspects of ProShop, or I'm sorry, a couple additional aspects of HighQA, just so you understand kind of the depth of what we get into as a quality management solution. So one of the big goals, in addition to just the planning side, we also have data collection tools. So whether you have automated inspection equipment like CMMs, vision systems, lasers, anything like that for inspecting parts, anything that's going to output a set of inspection results, we can import that data. We have extremely robust configuration tools to integrate with any CMM or vision system on the globe. Okay. And we also have what you see in front of you here are inspection data collection apps for shop floor usage, for QC rooms, for final inspection. These are tools that give you a wildly intuitive graphical interface for navigating the balloon drawing, seeing your inspection requirements, and just being able to easily input your inspection results and log what gauge was used to collect the result. So these are tools where users can sign in. You'll see that I was signed in when I grabbed the screenshot. Okay, so everything is tracked. All the inspection results are tracked to the user, the date and time the inspection results were taken. It'll automatically calculate pass fail, right? And it can deal with alerts and notifications based on performance of features. Okay, so it's an extremely robust system on that side as far as the applications go. Another area that we get into is SPC. So if this is an example of a dashboard, so think on the shop floor, you're in production, and the operator has specific features on a part that he's running that he wants to monitor for performance. And so we can color code or highlight the features red, green, or yellow, depending on the performance over the last 30 data points or whatever kind of bar you set there for the number of data points you want to measure against. Okay, so this is looking at whether the last 30 features are within the first, second, or third sigma. Okay, and this gives the operator, now I'll take a step back for just a second. This gives the operator a huge amount of flexibility, even for companies that have never gotten into SBC before, and they tend to shy away from it because they think it's overly complicated. If you're using our tools to input inspection data results, you'll have this dashboard populated automatically. It's just a matter of pulling it up on your screen. So just by entering data into our system, these charts and trends can be generated for you. So SBC is no longer this overly complicated, unattainable concept. We've made it much more achievable even for smaller shops. All right, just another example of trends for a particular dimension that you may be inputting some results against, right? And the last thing I wanted to touch on is just what we call our PQP module, so production quality planning. That module is really focused around planning for submission requirements and monitoring progress of your entire project from a quality perspective, specifically with regard to submission requirements. So this is an example here of a submission checklist, which we call an index for a particular part or job. Okay. And so what we're looking at is, this is somewhat representative of the 18 elements of PPAP, if you will. Those are all incorporated in these different reports that are listed here. So you'll have the design record, the balloon drawing, the part submission warrant, and FAI, even your PFlow, FMEA, control plan, SBC reports, capability charts, gauge R&R, all your material COCs. And that can all get rolled up into a final package down here. You can see this. That final package is the submission package of all of these elements rolled into one comprehensive document. Okay, so this is a huge amount of flexibility that we're bringing to the table now. There's a lot of power behind these tool sets. There's a comprehensive report designer on the back end of this system that lets you, we're able to build just about anything you could think of from a report or form. Now, if we think back to the beginning of where I started off our presentation, at least my section of it, I was saying beyond just no more paper, we're saying no more Word and Excel. All right, so when if you're still using Word and Excel to manage specific reports or certificates that you're building, or forms or anything like that for your quality requirements, you shouldn't have to do that anymore. We can build any kind of form in the system. Any of these yellow fields, those are human input fields. They're not yellow when you actually lock in the report, but when it's in an edit mode, they show up as yellow. So these can be text input, these can be checkboxes, you can have drop-down menus with specific options. There's all kinds of things that we can do as far as customizing the layout and the options available on a report like this. And so we're not just dumping data into reports from our database, we're also giving you interactive forms that you can work with as well. Another aspect of that is more intelligent applications like our PFlow, FMEAs, and control plans. Now, this is an example of an FMEA, right? Part of the 18 elements of PPAP. So anybody that's getting into this knows the pain of having to fill out FMEAs and managing that content. This is something where we have really robust libraries, process libraries with templated FMEA content that you configure in your system, so that when you run a new job, and we talked about how you can define the manufacturing operations and the dimensional requirements at each step, it'll generate that FMEA for you automatically based on the templated content in your system. Again, huge amount of power and efficiency built into this tool. all of these reports and forms are managed through what we'll say configurable and dynamic workflows. So this is, I mentioned in the beginning early on that we don't just sell you software, we actually consult and provide professional services to help you get get a system like this off the ground and configure it to your business needs. Okay, so we meet with you to identify what are the reports you need, what are your submission requirements, what are some of the workflows. So do you have documents that you just run the report and it's done? Some of them need an approval step. Some documents need like an electronic or digital signature. Okay, and that can all be supported through workflows. That's managing user accountability, assignments, personal task queues of what you're responsible for based on due dates of individual documents across all of your active jobs. Okay. And just to tie it all back, all of this that I just talked about is sourced from a balloon drawing, right? So it's all intelligently tied back to that balloon drawing, which is the start and the end and synchronization all the way through the quality and manufacturing process when it comes to defining your quality requirements, executing and performing, collecting all the data on the actual manufacturing and quality inspections, and then doing all of your comprehensive reporting that you need to, analytics and approvals and so on, all that, having that in one system and having that able to be integrated with ProShop as your entire ERP MES and tying in with your quality manual and quality documentation and such. That's a hugely powerful combination to not just go paperless, but also get rid of Word and Excel. And with that, we can jump into the Q&A side, which I believe Lisa is going to be moderating for us.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chris, and also to Brian for sharing your expertise with us. Now is the time when you can go ahead and type into your Q&A box at the bottom if you haven't done so already, and we will take your questions. We did have a couple of questions come in, so let's get started. The first one says, do you need to purchase both ProShop and Inspection Manager together, or can you start with one and then add the other later?
Yeah, that's a great question. Chris, did you want to take that, or you want me to speak into that one?
Yeah, well, I think either one of us could, but I'll take it.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, the answer, obviously you can buy ProShop or HighQA independently. They don't both need to, they don't need each other in order to be functional. Obviously we have many customers that don't necessarily overlap. I think the pitch that we're making today is that you are better off with HighQA and ProShop together because everyone needs an ERP, everyone needs the quality management tools that we are putting on the table. And so the combination of the two puts you in a better spot.
Yeah, and we are also, just to kind of further that point, we're also continuing to work together to continue the level of integrations that we have, which is only going to improve over time. So we're actually, I can say that we're already working on some additions that we're really excited about that should be coming out in the hopefully not too distant future. So that's another point about working with both of us that I think is really valid.
Well, it's funny you say that because the second question was, are the two companies committed to the data exchange between the systems for a long term, and what is the next level of integration? What does that look like? You kind of answered that, Brian. Chris, I don't know if you want to add any comments.
Yeah, I think it's just to piggyback on that. This is definitely a active and ongoing relationship partnership that we have between the two companies. We've very much enjoyed working together over the last few years, and as discussed, with the in-depth manufacturing background that is present on both sides, we just enjoy collaborating on and thinking of new ways to automate the manufacturing and quality processes for our customers, and how we can tie the systems together to do that better. So
yeah,
great. Here's another question about both together. Is there any special pricing offered for the Inspection Manager package as part of the overall ProShop solution bundle?
Brian, I don't know about your side.
I actually don't believe so. That's a great question. And honestly, I would probably want to defer that to somebody else on my team. I'm more of the technical guy, not the sales guy. But I don't know if you've got something on your end, Chris, that would speak to that.
I second that to a large degree. Is that I'm also more on the product management side.
Can you hear me, guys?
Oh,
We can, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, this is Sam. Yes, we do. We'll do it short. Because we have different packages level, so anything that it's purchased from any customer that has ProShop is getting discount. It starts from 10% discount on the smaller package. It can go up to 20%. It depends what packages you're going to buy on top of ProShop. But yes, there is a discount for the co product that works together.
Great.
Okay,
And for those of
thank
you
you,
that
Sam.
don't know, Sam Golan, he's the founder and CEO at HighQA. So thanks, Sam, for chiming in.
Thank you. We do have a couple of little bit more technical questions, so let's jump to those. Here's one for Brian and ProShop. Does ProShop work with QuickBooks?
Yes, ProShop is currently able to integrate with all QuickBooks products. And when what's important to know about the QuickBooks integration is that what's required for ProShop is an accounting system that handles AR and AP and payroll processing. We do track all financials within ProShop, handle all purchasing, manage customer orders, manage inventory, all that stuff. So really all that's required, even though we'll integrate with every version of QuickBooks, all that's required is something that can handle the bookkeeping side and build a profit and loss. ProShop will handle everything else. In addition to QuickBooks, we do currently integrate with Sage 50. And that statement of accounting packages will continue to grow over time that have an integration.
Okay, great. Here is another question. Where is the data stored? How safe and secure is it?
Chris, you want to take the HighQA side of that, and then I'll take the ProShop side?
Sure. Yeah, so HighQA is a data, I can't say it anymore. HighQA is a database-driven product. We have an SQL database backend. It is all local on your servers. So whether you choose to install that on physical or virtual servers on premise at your location, or if you have AWS private cloud servers, we can deploy in any of those environments. And so they're servers that you have control over. So as far as how safe and secure it is, it's up to your IT teams. We have the only impact that we have on that is the security and control that we put locally around the database, which is up to the highest government level security standards, because we work with a lot of Department of Defense contractors and so on that are using our product and have been able to, the product has passed all their security audits and such. So.
Yeah, on the ProShop side, you have options about how ProShop can be set up. The most common for us is have the server in the cloud. We serve on AWS servers, and so all of this sort of standard AWS security goes in with that. The next option, if we're talking about customers that would be ITAR and still want to be in the cloud, they would be looking at the GovCloud options to help meet those security requirements. That's again another common option. You can install the system completely on an on-premise server. In fact, we even have some clients that are behind air gaps, so that's options as well. Or even a hybrid between the two. If you want the web server in the cloud and your file server on premise, you can do that. We have lots of different ways that we structure where the information is stored, how it's served, the credentials for different users to log in and see that. ITAR control is also considered in that. Again, who can see what kind of information. So it's not a straightforward answer, because the answer is definitely dependent on exactly how you need to control that information, etc.
Great, flexibility is good. The same individual is asking, says, our QA system starts when the marketing, business development, and product management finalize the requirements and call a meeting of all stakeholders to review and finalize the requirements for the CEO's approval so that they are delivered to engineering. How does it work with HighQA and Inspection Manager?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I was reading that and thinking about it in the background. I think that brings up a really good point that we tend to hit on with anybody that's coming on board with our product, is that a lot of companies that engage with us or come to us looking for quality management solutions typically tend to think of us as only a solution or a software technology for quality teams. But what they find out very quickly when we start consulting with them and going through implementations is that Inspection Manager tends to be broadly applicable to a number of different departments in the organization. So while quality may kind of own the software from a management perspective, it impacts the mechanical engineers, manufacturing engineers, process engineers, various departments like that, and can be used for as a collaborative environment for reviewing parts from a quoting and a bidding perspective, because and that's just made possible by how quickly we're able to balloon and define inspection requirements. So we even have companies that are fully automating that process, where they do they have like cloud-based RFP sites where they'll have prospects or customers that upload a part model or a drawing, and it'll just automatically spit out a quote to them with lead time and such. And so they've used our product as a tool for automating, further defining and refining that quoting process, because they're able to trigger the auto ballooning in the background, and it identifies the tightest tolerances and so on for the drawing. And so there's a lot of creative ways our customers have worked with our solution to bring huge amounts of value and automation and intelligence to those review and approval processes early on in the business cycle.
Okay, excellent. Well, we are already past the top of the hour, so we will conclude with just this one final question. It says, is ProShop easy for shop floor users, and what's the learning curve? And then likewise for HighQA.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the basic gist is it's actually a very, very small learning curve. Again, ProShop is in a browser. Almost everybody knows how to use a browser. They're interfacing it not through complex menus, but just a series of on page links that we move through. Generally speaking, for shop floor users, we know, and because we came from this environment, we know that their job is to run product, to make things, and not to sit in front of a computer. And the entire system, and I can speak to this as somebody who is a machinist and got to help design and develop the system from that perspective, is that it's definitely geared toward providing the information very quickly, having a quick interface for users, an easy interface for users on the shop floor, so they can get to what their real job is, which is make product. The same sort of thing will go for everyone else along the process, but especially for shop floor employees, we try to make that as simple as possible and to keep that learning curve down. So usually a couple weeks and people get it, no problem, and they're off and running on their own.
Yeah, and I would say on the HighQA side too, we have a number of methods in which customers will, or approaches in which customers will implement our technology and the different systems that we have. And so the learning curve for each relative stage is extremely short. It's just typically, I think the biggest factor when it comes to simplicity of implementation and onboarding time comes down to the I guess sophistication level of the shop that's using the tools, right? And so like how organized are your processes and such when you're bringing a system in like what we have. And so obviously, I mean, we work with companies that are kind of all over the board as far as that goes, some that are extremely well organized and they have many well-defined processes, and so shifting things over is quite simple, and others that are trying to define standard processes for the very first time, right? Like maybe they've scaled or grown to a certain point where now they're saying, okay, we have to actually think about this and how information and parts flow through our shop, and we need to get a bit more organized. So we've helped with all sorts of different situations like that. And so it's really about, I think, the priority and the initiative that the individual company takes. But I guess to put some sort of a quantifiable number on it, our basic training sessions are about 2 hours, right? And from that point, most of our customers are able to start being productive after about 2 hours of training. And they take about a week or so to get to know the product, start working with a few parts on the ballooning side. And then it's only a matter of weeks from there before they've migrated or started flowing all of their parts through the system from a ballooning perspective.
Okay, great. Well, thanks again, Chris and Brian, for sharing your knowledge with us. We appreciate that. And also a big thank you to the audience for spending the hour with us. We hope you found it valuable. At this time, we will advance to the final slide, and we will leave our contact information up there for you in case you have any additional questions that come to mind later. Feel free to reach out to us at any time. Again, we hope you enjoyed the session, and we hope that you join us for our next one. Thanks so much, everyone. Enjoy your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Yeah, thank you.